Immortal Empires has just launched, and now you, the player, have the daunting choice of deciding which of the 80+ legendary lords you want to play for your next campaign. Or maybe this isn't your first run around, it's your 5th or 10th, who knows, I don't. In this series, I want to help guide you through deciding which lord or character to choose by giving you a no-spoiler breakdown of each campaign divided by their faction or race. I'll go through each legendary lord, giving you a brief summary of their abilities and what their campaign plays like to help you decide which is the right one for you. I've organized these from the ones I enjoy the least to the ones I enjoy the most. And this is by no means a concrete fact. You might love one of them more than I do. I'm grading them more off of my preference, so I don't feel like choosing the first lord on this list is going to be a letdown or anything like that. In this video today, we'll be covering the Tomb Kings. You can quickly navigate to any character that interests you the most using the chapters in both the timeline and the description. As always, guys, if you end up enjoying the content, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. Help me defeat the greatest boss of all time, the YouTube algorithm. Let's get started here on the Tomb Kings campaigns. And the first campaign to take a look at is Grand Hierophant Khatep. Now, it's worth noting that the Tomb Kings in general are a very interesting faction. They play unlike most factions in Total War Warhammer. We're going to go over that really quick. And it is also worth noting that they have a very disgustingly good auto-resolve, where in majority of the campaign, up until any kind of heavy infantry units, you can really kind of blow through with auto-resolve. So keep that in mind that each one of these campaigns, these 4 campaigns are about to go through, each one is actually quite, not necessarily easy, but they're quite powerful. You can use a lot of the tools at your disposal, and you can move a lot through a lot of the early portions of the campaign quite quickly. But where the campaign does slog for Tomb Kings is in the mid to late game, where you have to kind of very specialize in specific units to deal with heavy infantry. And that's just kind of worth noting as we go into this. So looking at the Lich Lord of Khemri faction effect, we get a hero capacity increase for Lich Priests, right cost, and mortuary cult crafting cost reductions for the Exiles of Nehek. That's actually pretty good. The rights you'll be using quite a bit, especially because the 4 rights that you get access to are very good for the Tomb Kings. Great Incantation of Tahoth is really awesome to get a Casket of Souls by turn 3 or 4. Also gives you a Lord recruitment rank of 3 and recruitment rank of 2. So the way you really want to do this is pop the Great Incantation after you've pushed through the research that it gives you a unique Tomb King to unlock. That Tomb King comes out at a higher recruitment rank, and boom, you're just right off to the races immediately. But you get this one over here that's going to pretty much cause attrition for anyone. It gives you the ability Sand Veil, and the Great Incantation of Geheb over here is a really nice one too, that gives you Tomb Swarm. The only unit in the 8th edition, well, quote-unquote 8th edition, yeah, 8th edition, it's just Tomb Kings roster that is not in the game, is the only unit, it's the only one missing. But construction time reduced for buildings and growth increase for provinces. And one thing to note is that construction time reduction for buildings for the Tomb Kings is actually very important. Even the tier 2 minor settlement building takes like 5-6 turns by default. So when we talk about Settra, who just by default on his faction effect reduces that by 1, it's a very strong ability. So just to kind of talk about those things. Now looking at the actual character of Grand Hierophant Khatep, we get some interesting stuff, some fun stuff actually. His trait here, oh my god, clear your throat, man. Character experience gain plus 25% for heroes in the Lord's army, so you can have quite, he will not say strong, but they can level up quickly is what I meant to say. You can have a lot of very high level heroes. And then campaign movement range plus 10% is actually very nice to get around the map quickly. Now, all of the lords will have these 2 abilities. The Curse, when they drop below 50% health, they'll pretty much explode, doing some damage. Then My Will Be Done, which increases melee defense and melee attack by 5 for all of your units within 35 meter radius, which is very, very nice. Settra gets a pretty nice bonus to this. Now, for his activatable ability, he gets the Sandstorm ability, which is very similar to the Skullstorm ability. So it's not as much damage. As you can see, this is 21 damage, lasts for 27 seconds with a 10 meter radius, movement speed of 3 meters a second. So this moves faster, has a higher radius, does less damage, and what was the duration? And lasts for not as long. So looking through the skill line for Khatep, we get the same red and blue lines that we get for every single character, and it is important to note that Canopic Jar Hoarder used to be very, very strong. It is now not as strong because you can get access to Canopic Jars so quickly, but this is a very useful skill for all of your heroes because it just passively generates you Canopic Jars, which are necessary for a lot of things for you across research and your mortuary cult. But when you look at the red line, you get this ability Reanimate, which is really strong, which then will progress into Resurrect, which just gives you healing and some leadership bonuses. And you really want to take a look at this red line, because the red line here is going to increase your bonuses in your ammunition and missile strength for all of your ranged units, skeleton based. This is going to give you armor and melee defense for all of your skeleton infantry, but then this is going to help out with your cav, this is going to help with your chariots, this is going to help with your Shabti, your Hero Titans, this is going to help out with your sepulchral stalkers, necrofex, and tomb scorpions. So you want to really focus on this stuff because you're going to be focusing on it per your character. Now with Khatep, he focuses on all of your skeleton infantry. That is the name of the game with Khadi. You can have super strong skeleton infantry. Let's take a look at this. So Geheb, the god of earth, this is going to give you bonuses to your Shabti, which are very nice actually, recruitment rank, melee defense, and melee attack. But Reanimator is going to give you leadership for all Nehekara warriors, skeleton spearmen, skeleton archers, and tomb guard units. And that also stacks with all of this, increasing armor and melee defense for the aforementioned units. Eros Asaph, which is going to increase the missile strength for the skeleton archers and the ammunition for skeleton archers. Let's put more into this. Soul Binding, he gets these unique top level skills over here too. Recruitment rank for all aforementioned units and physical resistance for them. And then, nope. Okay. And then into Sandstorm. This is going to help out with the Sandstorm ability, but it gets Steve Reanimation, helps out with leadership and melee attack for all skeleton cab units. Then Tomb Protector gives you casualty replenishment for your tomb guards. Lich Lord gives you hero capacity for Lich Priests. Then Grand Hierophant Khatep, Grand Hierophant, just period, gives you Winds of Magic Reserve and hero action success chance plus 5% for Lich Priests. Witness to the Old Age, or the Golden Age, gives you research rate 5% and construction cost reduction, as well as Mortuary Cult is going to help with Canopic Jars, just one, and unlocks your Lich Priest and hero capacity increase for them, with Arcane Knowledge being your last one. Winds of Magic Power Reserve minus 5% when increasing, but you get 15% spell resistance. So, really the big thing with Khatep is focusing on your infantry. You can have stupid strong infantry, because when you look at the dynasties, which I don't know if you've played Tomb Kings a long time, you probably forgot about this because I did, you get the ability to pretty much focus on a specific portion of the Tomb King roster with a designated lord for that portion. So for example, the 6th dynasty gives you stuff for Ushabti, Necrosphinx, and then Cambrian War Sphinxes. But then I can jump up over here and get this guy, which is going to give me chariots and pretty much just jacked chariots. Also skeleton archer chariots. So you really can focus on specific lords to bring out into your army. They're really going to benefit a lot of the things that you already get innately within your faction or you're trying to work towards. Like the 1st dynasty is actually pretty strong here because you get all these bonuses towards the chariot units. Sure, this is going to be charge bonus for your Nehekar warriors, but this one's going to help out with melee attack and melee defense for those Nehekar warriors as well. And then 1st Dynasty Plans helps out with armor and weapon strength for Nehekar warriors. So you can just kind of look through this and determine, what do I want to stack? Let's go Skeleton Warrior. Any of these can do for Skeleton Warriors? No. There's this guy that's going to help out with, gives Death Blow for your Nehekara warriors, skeleton spearmen, archers, and tomb guard. I mean, that's an awesome ability because you're going to have so many in your army. You're going to be focusing on it because of your abilities with Khatep, stuff like that. Even further, we can type in here, let's type in tomb guard, and all the tomb guard ones are right here. So if you want to go into Wisdom of the 4th Dynasty, this is going to give you all these bonuses towards tomb guards, armor, weapon strength, stuff like that. So that's something to keep in mind with all 4 of the lords, but especially here with Khatep because he relies on so many bonuses towards his infantry. Now, also worth talking about too is his single item, the Lich Staff, which helps out with miscast base chance, corruption, magic item drop chance plus 60%, which is quite nice, but it also helps with increasing cooldown of your enemies. So you have those benefits to you. Now, I have Khatep here on the bottom of the list because he has a kind of a hard start. If we look at his Books of Nagash, and I believe that these are randomized. Oh no, they're not. These are the same ones from the last 2 times I played. These ancient books are in some pretty precarious locations. Fighting against Dark Elves, fighting against Dwarfs, fighting against Ogres, and then fighting against Lizardmen are very hard factions for Tomb Kings to deal with. You do have some benefits to you though, and this is true of all Tomb Kings. You pay no upkeep for your units, and you pay no money to recruit your units. So I find that the Tomb Kings are an extremely like new player friendly faction because it allows you to just make huge armies very quickly and just trounce through the map. And then you pop into your Mortuary Cult, which gives you specific units that are unique to the Tomb Kings. Also, like kind of like regiments of renown, very very similar to regiments of renown. Like, well, in fact, I think there's like spot on regiments of renown. But you also make weapons, armor, enchanted items on here, and this is kind of playing into another thing that adds to the difficulty of this campaign. In order to make all these, and they're really good, right? Like a lot of these are really really strong. You need these resources. The closest gemstone, if you click this, it's all the way up here. Then if I go further, we'll go back down to that one. The closest golden idols, and you get golden idols from any kind of gold mine, is right down here. In fact, a good smattering of resources are all right in this location. Now, the two ways you get those resources are either by any kind of trade agreement, which gets you access to those, or by actually directly controlling them and creating the resource producing building. That's a problem with Khatep. He is no friend to most people around him, so it's going to be hard for him to secure trade. And the factions that do hold those locations are, again, going to be in direct opposition to him as far as like heavy counters to his army. So I find this to be a very challenging campaign, but if you want a campaign where you are playing as a particularly strong caster character, right, because that's his focus is on the lore of Nakara, and having a really strong backbone skeleton infantry army and really focusing on those bonuses, as well as getting the cool casket of souls to make Khatep a siege piece, I really find this to be a strong campaign for you. It will be a struggle. Every single faction I feel has one challenge campaign, and this is the one for the Tomb Kings, but you will find that in the early game you're going to expand quickly, but you're going to stall out fast as you start to hit into a lot of the heavier armored and heavier hitting units and factions around you. But again, if you want a really cool army of skeleton warriors and skeleton infantry, trust me, Khatep is going to be the bone daddy for you. Next up is Khalida of Liberis, the sister to Neferata. So let's take a look over here at this character and what they are looking like with the Warrior Queen of Liberis, Libaris, I think. Diplomatic relations plus 10 with all factions, which is very nice, and research rate plus 15%. Control plus 4, ammunition plus 20%, all armies, all provinces. Those are really nice faction effects right there. And then we look at her actual abilities. We get the Beloved of Asaf. Now, her focus is going to be on range units, and that is quite all right because she does a good job at it. So attrition reduction for 50%, casualty suffered from all attrition, corruption -3, and then enables poison attacks for the whole army. That is a very strong ability. Because she also has Venom Wave, which is a cool little explosion she can do, and she gets Blessing of Asaf, which is going to increase the base weapon damage as well as AP missile damage of all, and reload skill of all of her range units in a 35-meter radius around her. So she is quite focused on that range capabilities. Let's take a look at her skills here. Again, same thing for the most part when it comes to the blue and the red line. That's all going to be there for you. But you see now we have a yellow line to talk about, because the yellow line has the Tomb Strike. Now this will imbue a unit with base weapon damage 30%, melee attack plus 24, and can cause terror. Now this will upgrade to Desert Strike, which will do a 60% and 40, as well as cause terror as far as those respective bonuses last for 23 seconds. It's quite great. Now, looking at her line, her specific line, we get the Asaf, the Goddess of Magic and Vengeance, which is going to give her Winds of Magic increase, ambush success chance plus 15%. It's worth noting that the ambush success blue line ability doesn't come until right here. I think it would be pretty interesting for Khalida if this was swapped into the first portion and one of these was pushed over to this last portion, just so she can really focus on that. This is also, though, going to give her missile strength plus 12% for skeleton archers and sepulchral stalkers. That is going to that is going to stack with this. So her skeleton archers are going to have 20% missile strength increased. It's just disgusting, and it just gets even better. So the True Blessing of Asaf is going to get a further increase on its abilities, increasing more again to the things that it already gives bonuses to. Purified is going to give her attrition minus 25%, casualty suffer from all attrition, and at rank 2. this also grants her regeneration. So I think it's a 75% total. Liberus's best is going to increase that ammunition for skeleton archers by an additional 25%. So that's a 45% increase to her ammo. And then the rank comes out at an additional 3 ranks. But we also get Legions of the Asp Goddess, which is going to give you that legionary barrage ability that you'd otherwise get as a building ability. Embodiment of Asaph, melee attack and melee defense for Sepulchral Stalkers and Necropolis Knights, with Warrior Queen giving her frenzy and physical resistance. So, I guess, since this is the first time looking at these, she also can get Return to Madness. The other 3 characters all get this, which gives physical resistance and charge bonus. Ancient Tyrant for some income and control. Embalmed Elixir, which helps out with fire resistance, because remember, these all have that fire weakness of 15%, so this gets rid of it, which is pretty cool. Then Ceremonial Bandages for missile resistance. And she gets a nice Necro Serpent. How sweet is that? For her quest item, we get the Venom Staff, which gives her this ability right here. Shoot shrapnel on an impact, effective at long range, strong versus multiple targets. But armor piercing plus 40 enables magical attacks and corruption minus 5. That is a big thing for her, is reducing corruption, as that was kind of her focus in lore. Well, kind of, roughly. Well, just killing vampires really is the big focus here. But what you'll really notice is, when you look at this, if I type in Archer, you can go into the Quickening and get a lot of bonuses further into this for skeleton archers. Ammunition can go up quite significantly. I think that's like, what? 45 plus 15, you're looking at 60% bonus on ammunition right there. Then Bone Edifice 2 is going to help out with missile strength for your archers. So you can really stack a lot of bonuses using that second dynasty. You also get stuff like this, which is going to give you AP to all of the aforementioned, skeleton archers, archer chariots, Ushabti bows, and bone giants, as well as this one helping with your, this gives death blow to the skeleton archers, which I did not know. But one thing to kind of take note of is that she starts off with a lot of research at 15%. And one thing I did not talk about too with Khatep is that every single building, every single like main settlement or provincial capital building grants you research. And like I was saying too, like look at that, it takes 6 turns to jump up. So as you kind of get a larger and larger and larger territory, you actually stack up more and more research, because choosing one of these wisdoms reduces your research rate by 30%. So the nice thing is that she kind of gets a jump on trying to reduce the impact of choosing any of these researches or wisdoms against her. That's all really good. Now, I think what Khalida doesn't benefit from, and also what Khatep didn't benefit from too, which I forgot to talk about, was access to the Great Pyramids. The Great Pyramids are all here in the Land of the Dead, the Shifting Sands, the Cracked Land. I don't know if there's one Land of the Dervishes, I don't think so. But pretty much all of Khemri. These locations right here have these, it's kind of, they're unique building slots, but they're like unique building slots on crack, because they cost a growth point to use, and they give a lot of faction bonuses and a lot of local province bonuses. And Liberus doesn't really get access to those right away. She has to really kind of fight her way into here and hopefully get them from Khemri or wrestle them out from Arkhan the Black. And I think that you'll enjoy this campaign if you want to play with archers, because as you've seen, her archer game is disgusting. And the cool thing too is that she can kind of expand north and go here into the Darklands, whereas no other Tomb King can really sufficiently do that as succinctly as she can. Even looking at her books, they kind of bring her up in this northern region. The unfortunate thing is that a lot of her books bring her over there, which is kind of, I mean, man, White Tower of Hoeth? No thanks. I don't want to do that. That's a long little jaunt. Also, she can go south, so she does kind of have this whole portion. But I find too, you're going to get to a point where you're going to stall out, because Barrier Idols gets disgustingly strong with Scarbrand. So you have to fight against Scarbrand, and that can be good once you get a lot of really good range units and have a good central line of skeleton warriors, but you're going to find that you'll hit a lot of resistance there. And by and large, I find that the other 2 characters we're about to talk about that can take advantage of all these really cool, unique Tomb King buildings kind of end up being a little bit more fun than Khalida and Khatep. So let's move now into Settra. Now, Settra does not serve, he rules. And rules quite well with a lot of really awesome abilities. So let's take a look at Settra's faction effects, the Imperishable, which is going to help him with Allegiance points granted plus 50% for the alliances from Tomb Kings. I don't find alliances to be perfectly useful or really useful at all for the Tomb Kings. I wish, in fact, they actually had a confederation mechanic that was cool and part of like their campaign, but maybe just Settra's campaign. But be that as it may, he also gives growth plus 20 all provinces, construction time -1 for all buildings, and like I said, that is so strong. Like just taking a look over here at Khemri, going from 1 to 2, that's a 4 turn, that's 5 turns, 6 turns, 7 turn, and of course that's in a major province. But if I were to look at the minor province, we saw that jumping to the tier 3 building was 6 turns, tier 2 is 5, so it still takes a long time, and that really kind of curbs the impact on that. So for Settra, his actual ability here is the Great King, and that is his casualty replenishment rate plus 10%, aura size plus 100, and local recruitment capacity plus 1. And this Imperishable, that increases all the way up to the King of Kings, income from raiding 30%, income from all buildings plus 15%, but that's only in the local province. So keep that in mind. You're not going to be sitting necessarily making tons of money unless you slap him in a place and keep him there and make a bunch of money there. He has My Will Be Done and the Curse, but he also gets the Wrath of Petra, which is going to be basically another big explosion for him. Explosion does not affect friendly troops, causes moderate magical and fire damage, large explosion area. Now, for his skills, it's cool because he is also a hybrid caster lord character. I don't know what all that means, but I said it out loud. So he does get that typical yellow line and the red line and the blue line, but he also gets access to the lore of Nehekara, which is great. I mean, you don't even need to go deep into this lore. He does have Arcane Conduit too, which is very nice, but you could just simply say, hey, you know what? I'm going to focus on the Jaf's incantations of Cursed Blades and the Restless Dead, and just simply buff his damage, or get Nero's incantation of protection and go ahead and just buff his survivability. He doesn't get the, say, 3 nodes that you get with Khatep. Khatep can, I think, jump up to 3 on here. Maybe it's even just the standard Tomb Priest or Lich Priest, but he is limited in his specialization of these, of course. But when it comes to his unique stuff, A, he has a Khemrian War Sphinx, and then B, a Chariot of the Gods. So he has his unique chariot, which is pretty sweet, pretty spicy, and does a lot of damage. He gets Petra the Great Father, which helps with recruitment rank for Tomb Princes, and then leadership and melee defense for Tomb Guard and Chariot units, which is quite spicy. And that's kind of the name of the game here. He starts, which is nice, with 2 Tomb Guard and 2 Skeleton Archers. He used to start, I think, with a War Sphinx, but he doesn't anymore, which is unfortunate. But I still think that starting with the Tomb Guard that he can buff right out the gate is very strong. Unyielding Will changes My Will Be Done to be a 35 meter radius to a 55 meter radius, so he gives a really big range to buff, which is nice because he's going to be in combat with this War Sphinx and Chariot. Pretty cool. Conqueror of the Past helps with control and recruitment rank. Founder of Khemri is really good because it helps with hero capacity for Tomb Princes, so you can have really jacked Tomb Princes coming out of the gate here. So that's 2 plus this brings it to your Tomb Princes coming out at rank 6. Restless Minions also is great because it helps out with the unit capacity for your Tomb Guard, your melee attack, and your attribute Vanguard deployment for Skeleton Chariots. Very nice here, so it's a great way to buff them up. Trampler of the Ages helps out with speed and charge bonus for the entire army, so focus on those chariots. And Immortal King of Nehekara, charge bonus and physical resistance. One thing I did not talk about on any of the previous characters is the fact that your military buildings do allow you to recruit units, and they're very cheap, which is nice. But if you look at this building, Open Graves, unit capacity plus 2 Nehekara Warrior, unit capacity plus 4 Skeleton Archers. As you move up, you get more and more capacity. So this increases your capacity for Warriors by 1 and gives you now Tomb Guard. This now increases your capacity for Tomb Guard by another 1, and now Tomb Guards with Halberds. So you do have to make more of these buildings than you typically would make with other factions, where you just simply make it once and you produce the building and you're fine. The nice thing is, almost every single unit producing, base tier unit producing building at least, is rank 3, meaning that you can make it in a minor settlement and have it max rank out. The only things that have exceptions here are these tier 5 War Sphinx, Necro Sphinx, and Hero Titan statues, as well as the Nehekaran Citadel and the Royal Menagerie. So kind of keep these things in mind, but it is nice that you can simply just oh, you know what? This one minor settlement has had its really good income building. By the way, that's worth noting that it increases both the income by a substantial amount and the campaign movement range. And you have a decree for all the Tomb Kings that increases the amount of income being generated in the province. So you get a lot of money as the Tomb Kings. Also, the Grand Ossuary helps out with growth, captive replenishment rate, and corruption. They're just really good, like well-layered buildings. And it just is a testament to the fact that the Tomb Kings came out after Warhammer 2 launched. And it's a very strong faction as far as how everything's configured from a building and from a technology standpoint. So it really lasts the test of time. Another big thing here too, this is the Great Pyramid of Settra. So you'll be taking advantage of these Great Pyramids throughout your campaign as Khemri, and really in just a big way, because you are surrounded by them. You've got one here, two there, three there, well, your third there, a fourth one here, but this one's a little bit not as easy. I think you have a fifth one over here in Numas. Oh no, you don't. Numas, that's not where Numas is. Numas is right there. But you have a fifth one right here, I think at Kasabar. There's another one down here. There's another one down here. And what's unique with Settra is that he gets access to those pretty much like by turn 5. You should have almost all of them. You'll have a nice big circle right here that you'll have that's just producing tons of money. One thing I forgot to look at, though, are the quest items. So the Crown of Nehekara and the Blessed Blade of Petra, which is very nice for imbuing flaming attacks and magical attacks and everything, all sorts of great fun damage. And the Crown of Nehekara gives a lot of buff damage to weapon damage, AP damage, and charge bonuses. So you'll have a lot of fun with these, with physical resistance as well, and enable magical attacks for Settra. Which is good because, guess who starts right up here? It's Skarbrand. So you'll have him knocking on your door. So by and large, I really like Settra's campaign. It's very fun. If I wanted to play a pure Tomb Kings campaign where I get to have the best Tomb Guard, well, really strong Tomb Guard, it's kind of like a toss-up between the physical resistance from Khatep and all the buffs and capacity increases from Settra. I guess you could say he just gets the best chariots. And you buff all those chariots even further with your technology, right? Chariot, and just kind of go into all these for more chariot bonuses. So very, very, very nice. Very, very nice. But again, if I wanted a pure Tomb Kings playthrough that was really strong and very fun and took advantage of these Great Pyramids, it's definitely Settra. And Settra, I think, is a lot of people's number one. I have Arkhan as my number one because I like Arkhan's playstyle more than Settra, and we're going to talk about that in just a second here. The books of Nagash are pretty well spread across the place here too, but Settra is definitely a powerhouse, probably the strongest single character for the Tomb Kings, and makes sense because, you know, he's Settra the Imperishable, and you get a lot of fun tools to take advantage of. I think if you do want that strong Tomb King, strong chariot, and strong individual character playthrough, Settra is definitely going to be the one for you. So the last and my personal favorite campaign is Arkhan the Black. And he has so many fun tools at his disposal. So let's take a look at this with the Mortarch. And they enables recruitment of certain enhanced vampire counts units. Army capacity +1, diplomatic relations increase with vampire counts and coast, but of course reduced with the Tomb Kings. Taking a look at some of his other stuff here. He has the Liber Mortis, which is a great ward save ability that he has. Gives him a nice sphere of physical resistance of 40%. 3 uses of this. Leadership increase. It's really, really nice. Also, he still gets the same thing with the Curse and My Will Be Done. And a focus with the Lich King that gives him Winds of Magic and melee attack +5 for the whole entire army. Looking at his skills, this is where things really kind of start to pop off. Pop off might not be the term I wanted to use here, but still, nonetheless, he gets it. Because he gets the Lore of Death, which is very nice, and both the yellow line, so he can get access to Tomb Strike, which Khatep did not get, and then Reanimate from the red line. So he gets those, well, Necrostrike and Resurrect. Also, it's Greater Arcane Conduit, which is very strong. A great way to keep those Winds of Magic up. And we're looking at his unique line. He gets Usirian, the God of the Underworld, which is going to help out with casualty replenishment, local recruitment capacity, but also missile strength for Casket of Souls units. Remember, the Casket of Souls you can get by turn 5. Not even turn 5, really. All you have to do, the right will unlock after owning 20 units. It's so quick to get. Then by turn 3, you can probably get it. Especially because it doesn't cost you anything to recruit units, right? So Vengeful So this replaces the curse with the Befalling curse. Everything's exactly the same, but now it does vigor per second damage to the units that it hits, which is great. And then he gets the Curse of Undeath. So life leeching, which is going to increase your Winds of Magic power reserve per second. Your reserves per second. This will help out with healing. So you basically are creating healing for your entire army. Casualty replenishment rate plus this. And you're also helping out with your Winds of Magic. It's really, really good. Martial Prowess, not as amazing, but it still gives him 12 armor because he has 90 to start with. It brings him to 102. And melee defense up by 8. Legions of Death helps out with his recruitable Direwolves, Crypt Ghouls, Fellbats, and Hex Wraiths. Those Hex Wraiths are really the big focus here. They're really strong. And then Lich King helps out with the hero capacity recruitment rank for Lich Priests, with the Right Hand of Nagash being his final thing, giving you recruitment rank bonuses to the aforementioned units that he can recruit, and hit points plus 10%. So a lot of really cool abilities here, but really, I mean, these Hex Wraiths are just so great. AP, magic attacks. They're also going to be doing Frostbite. They've got that ward save already baked into them. They're just really good. Vanguard deployment, of course. And the fact that he starts with them is great. And the fact that you can get access to them even not too far away. Like, he gets a very special building, the Grave Hill. It's a tier 3 building for the Ancient Burial Mound. And it's great. It just gives you Hex Wraiths. It gives you more Crypt Ghouls. And Crypt Ghouls are very strong in the early campaign, because they're going to allow you to really push into Bretonnia very easily, and then eventually into Empire with Sudenburg and whatnot, and having physical resistance and everything is just always such a nice little cherry on top. But their melee attack at 45 with that poison damage. Now, taking quest items, he gets the Tomb Blade of Arkhan, which allows him to summon up skeleton warriors, which is always great. Gives him melee attack or weapon strength 14%, but also enables magical attacks. Income from post-battle loot 15%. Very, very nice. And then also the Staff of Nagash here. You can see that this is going to help out with allegiance and control with having both. But this Staff of Nagash is going to help out with that power recharge and decreases cooldowns, which is so good. And research rate plus 10%. We talked about how research rate is really, really crucial for the Tomb Kings. But by and large, I find this to be a more interesting campaign because it's all the things that you get from Settra as far as a campaign goes. You now just get the added benefit of being able to recruit Crypt Ghouls, Hex Wraiths, Fellbats, and the dogs of the Undead Bros. These dudes. Direwolves. I couldn't think of that word for some damn reason. And on top of it, this location is so fragmented and disjointed that it's easy to roll through. You when you're in the Land of the Dead, you go south and you're immediately up against Manfred von Karstein, which can be kind of, depending on what difficulty you're playing at, can actually be kind of rubbish. You also start with one book of Nagash, which is pretty cool. So that book enables you the recruitment of certain vampire count units. That's 9th book right there. But being able to pretty much take this out, knock out this faction, go up to Coffer. I mean, I took out Réponse de Léonesse in like 2-3 turns. And she grants you some nice experience gain for fighting against Bretonnia and attrition benefits, I believe it was. But you can pretty much take off this whole region by turn 20. And that's a lot. And you could pretty much just leave the dwarfs alone for a little bit as you consolidate power around here. And you're going to get access to the Great Desert of Araby. It's a single building unit here. I'm sorry, a single building slot location. You don't have to build it up or anything like that. It's actually kind of cool. The Black Tower of Arkhan's right there. And you pretty much have your main power base solidified. And then from there, go do your books. That's what I find so fun about this campaign is I find of all 4 of the campaigns, you can actually do the objectives for the Books of Nagash pretty easily because you can just solidify so much strength in this location, build some defensive buildings, and just kind of wander off. Go do whatever you want. And I find that to be really fun. And Arkhan the Black himself is very, very strong. He gets that skeleton chariot. I mean, he has a lot of armor. He's a pretty jacked dude for being a caster character. So you have a lot of really fun tools at your disposal, and you have a lot of really cool ways to tap into those. Now, you can't say buff a specific Tomb King unit like you really can with all the other characters. And it's worth noting that the Crypt Ghouls, Fellbats, and Direwolves fall off in their viability in the mid to late game. It's also a problem that Khalida suffers from. Skeleton archers don't really have any AP damage, so even if you buff up all their other stats, they still are not going to be too great in the latter portions of the game like the Ushapti Great Bows are. That's something that's worth noting when it comes to Khalida and Arkhan, but Hex Wraiths are very strong and very viable throughout your entire campaign, and tapping into them at only tier 3, you can hard tech into them, get tons of them, and have a lot of fun just reaping through the entirety of this little horn before going into Khemri if you so wish, or just bouncing off this, jumping into Lustria, getting all of your books, whatever you want to do. I find this to be a little bit more of a choose your own adventure campaign versus the other one feel a little bit more on the rails. And again, like I said too, all those pyramids are just right here, so you can take advantage of having this massive Arkhan the Black campaign through the Land of the Dead and the Cracked Lands, and then eventually taking the Great Mortis Delta. You can deal with Scarbrand pretty quickly. I dealt with him because by the time he attacked me, I had already taken all this, and I was pretty jack strong. So that is my take on the Tomb Kings and which campaigns I like the most and how I kind of rank them here. Go ahead and let me know in the comment section below how you feel. Do you think Arkhan's actually the weakest campaign? Are you having a lot of fun with Khatep? Do you find that Settra can be played in a whole entirely different fashion than I mentioned in this video? As always, guys, let it be known, playing the campaigns in a different way is always really huge for anyone who's jumping in for the first time, so give plenty of ideas if you can. The next video I think we'll cover in this subject is probably going to be the Lizardmen. I wanted to do dwarfs, but they have a big bug right now with their grudges from what I've heard, and I don't like the dwarfs anyway. But that's neither here nor there. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one, and take care.